This is the NFLX one-year overview reading for the year of 2023. It's currently January 25th, 2023, 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time. And NFLX at the time of this reading, currently in the extended hours, it's $361.45 per share. That's USD. Also, I don't have the shuffle file, but you can see that the reading photograph that we're looking at was created on October 10th, 2022. I don't know where the shuffle file went. I did it so long ago. So the overall theme and behavior, there's a lot of money to be made here. There's like a notable trade opportunity along a key support level. It's crossed with a big move to the upside, at least one. It actually looks like there's three of them throughout the year, three significantly large moves to the upside that'll stand out among other possibly big moves, but these will be the biggest moves. When we look at it helps when we're looking at the 1 years to cross-reference the 10-year, right? So this card right here is 2023. It's the Princess of Swords. Usually there's quite a bit of price change when you see Princess of Swords, because it offers an opportunity to position oneself in both directions in a lot of cases. It speaks of resistance, like a key resistance, and so on the scale of a 10-year reading, we're talking about key resistance on a multi-year scale. And then there's usually some like decline off of resistance. Sometimes there's a lot of rally into resistance and very little decline. Sometimes there's very little rally into resistance and a lot of decline out of it. It's hard to determine that, but my sense is that we end up in a higher position towards 2024. Yeah, so it's bullish into resistance, it looks like. 2023, bullish into like a key resistance. Actually, it looks like we established support at a newer resistance, like at a higher level, new support. And then the following year, we break down through that, probably back down through that same price level. So there's like a peak in there, 23, 24. With that said, that'll help inform us on reading the 2023 1 year. And you can see we have it's crossed with the Sun card, so it's crossed with a notable move to the upside, at least one. Like I said, I see three actually. So the three biggest moves for the year. I'm going to try some different format here, guys, and see if you guys like this better. Rather than me just like trying to determine where the highest high and the lowest low, sometimes I can't determine that. You know, I don't want to like connect dots that don't need to be connected. So I'm gonna like bullet like the parts that I think are pretty solid, like points to keep in mind. One of those being in this reading, three really prominent moves higher. There's one in the beginning of April. A big move higher offers an opportunity to open up a short position, but it's a big move higher. It'll reach for distant resistance. And then there's another one looks like it starts in the end of August. It starts in the end of August and continues through a breakout to reach for a distant resistance in early September. So that's the second one. And then the third one that I see is a bit more brief. In early November, we have this notable move to the upside to reach for distant resistance. That resistance we then decline down from with consecutively lower spikes up on the way down. It looks like it's one of the prominent highs for the year as well. And matter of fact, it may even be in December. Matter of factly. So we have the love card here in December, right? It's interesting because when we look at the 10-year, We have the abundance card correlating to 2024. Maybe that's a little bit of a stretch, but it's interesting because there's a correlation between the Two of Cups and Three of Cups. And to see it at a high, it's interesting. Behavior around the highest high. We have a notable decline off of the highest high. The decline will like take us to like a prominent low. So it's a really strong move to the downside off of the highest highs. And then behavior around the lowest low. The information I'm getting from the art card is that we actually have two lows with a peak in between. And when looking at the, when I broke down the highest highs and lowest lows correlations, it really did come into play that we had a lowest low, a highest high, possibly another highest high, and then we have a lowest low, which I think the correlation is here, but I think it's actually out more in like the end of August, early September. And so it's January 25th. Let's check out the January cluster real quick. So we had this rally from a prominent trough to a prominent resistance along a diagonal trend line, and then it ends with a fast sudden move higher and a decline through that diagonal trend line with increasing volatility on the way down. Looks like we declined from the high in January through a support level that we'd recently broken down through once before. There's a fake out in the end of January, and the low forms after we decline off of a crest down to and through support, and then come back and reuse that support as support. And that's all on the scale of a 1 year chart kind of scale when I'm talking about supports and crests and stuff. Interesting. So there's a little bit of a fake out to the upside there. I want to notate that. I pulled the card. I make sure that I notate that. That'll be helpful information when I'm reading it later. There's a fake out there. And then it looks like these correlations to the Princess of Discs, they seem to be taking place near highs. Let me see. Relatively close to highs. So my sense is that Princess of Discs level is like a support level at like the highest high level that we rotate sideways along for a bit, but then we decline off of that price level pretty hard into a low again. Location of the highest highs. So the most likely location of the highest highs, there's three peaks. One in May, one in June, and one in July. My sense is that the highest high is probably June, end of June, like the fourth week of June. And it may be preceded by the same high in like the third or fourth week of May, but it may also be higher than the May high. It's less likely that we see it in July. Well, it's possible because we pushed the upper end of a range higher there in the July peak. But then we fall into where the lowest lows, the second location on the year where the lowest lows are. There's a high probability of the lowest low. Between like, it could be the end of July, but really my sense is it's more so into August, September, closer to September, like at the end of August or September. That's one of the lowest low, highest probability locations of the lowest low, and then it looks like it's a dual lowest low, and we have at the beginning of the year, at the end of February, or into early March, it looks like there's a lowest low correlation there as well. So we go from a lowest low in March to a highest high in, like, we probably see the highest high at least probably twice. Remember, we're going to do a little bit of rotation along that price level. Could be more than one price level, but in any case, the highest high is most likely there in May, June, July, and then lowest low again end of July, August, September. There's a prominent crest there in November, at the end of November, but not necessarily a highest high. And my sense is that we go higher. Oof. My sense is that we go higher into... Yeah, I pulled a unicursal, like, but with the wealth card that flipped over and the sun card. The wealth card was Clairkinetic, super reliable. So that's like, we rally. We probably don't see a higher high in at this crest here in November, but in early 2024, we likely see a higher high. And that would go right in hand with the 10-year overview as well. All right, so the 2 week by 2 week kind of behavior. So in January, we're going to check out that January chart. Let's take a look real quick. So this is January. It's been a rally, right, with a little bit of a decline and then even more of a rally. And what did we say? We have a rally along a diagonal trend line that ends with a fast sudden move higher, right? Fast sudden move higher. There's a rally along the diagonal trend line and then a fast sudden move higher, and that then it ends with this move higher and then a breakdown through that diagonal trend line. So the diagonal trend line should be this right here. Like that. So we should break down through this very, very soon is my sense. And then in January, what else? And then there's a fake out to the upside at the end of... So like we break down and then there's a fake out to the upside. So we sell off of this crest through a support level we just broke down through. Right, so January... So we probably sell off through like this support level right here. Again, right? Let's mark that as horizontal. Right, so this support level at, what is it, 330.98. Likely we break down through that. And then do like a U-shaped reversal below it. Continue a little lower, do a U-shaped reversal below it, and then come back and reuse it. So kind of like this. Where's the doodle? In purple, because it's kind of prognostic. Right, so like this. Sort of. But that's pretty much on the ball. It's just a little bit of the 2023 reading that we have to go on, but it's always good to see when you have a little bit of past in the reading to utilize it as a way of kind of like accuracy checking. The whole reading is done under the same energy influence, right? So if it would be logical to say that like if the beginning of the reading is like that, the remainder of the reading should be pretty solid too. And for the most part, that's how readings will be. Not always like anything, but for the most part. All right, so that was January, and then in February we have this period of volatility. So there's like a move at the end of January. That's a fake out, and then we have more volatility in February. Into a lowest low there at the end of February. So in the end of February, out of the lowest low, there should be a notable move from the bottom of a range all the way to the top of a range. Okay, so the fake out at the end of January, the fast sudden move to the upside there, takes us into a high for the month of February. There's volatility, actually from the high, which is a prominent high for the year. There's a decline that increases with momentum moving into a lowest low there in the end of February. So we go fast and move higher, decline increasing with momentum. And then around the low, there should be multiple failed attempts to break through key resistance just around where the low is. And then we have a big move out of the low from the bottom of a range all the way to the top of a range, and that should take us to this price level that's significant. This is whatever price level we have around the high of March. It's important to notate it because it'll be very significant. It correlates almost perfectly with the Princess of Discs, which is the theme card, the most important card in any reading, the theme card. So when you have like a Princess of Discs and an Ace of Discs appears in the timeline with the Princess of Discs as the theme, or vice versa, that's like a real indication of timing of importance, right? So the high there, so lowest low, like in the cusp there, of February, March. And then out of that decline, fast sudden move higher. A lot of ground is covered, like from the bottom of a range all the way to the top of a range. And the top of a range thus far, it may have been established here with the Knight of Swords in early March. It's possible because they both have a correlation, an orange correlation to the Princess of Discs. So it's possible it's the same price level that we rotate sideways along. I think it probably is. And then we decline off of that in late March into another prominent trough on the cusp of March and April. There's quite a bit of trade opportunities in the first quarter, which I'll get into in the paid version, especially when we get into March. In April, there's a notable move to the upside out of that cusp trough. Again, which was a prominent trough for the year. There's a notable move to the upside and a prominent crest or peak for the year there. This is the first really big move to the upside. We reach for distant resistance. The high in April, we sell off from like near overbought territory on RSI, and the decline into the end of April is through multiple support levels on a like year-to-date kind of scale. I'm advised to be cautious around the low in April. There's some sort of tricky chart behavior going on there. We may have multiple false bottoms or like some sort of like fake out there. Interesting. Yeah, there's something tricky going on there. But then around mid-April, out of like this decline, there's like this rally in early April into mid-April becomes a decline. There's a fast sudden move out of the low of April, followed by like okay, I see what it is. Sorry guys. All right, so we rally in early April out of that prominent trough on the cusp of March, April, right? We rally in early April. There's an opportunity there to open up a short position. We're at a near overbought crest or peak and a prominent crest for the year, probably like the beginning of the second week of April, and then we decline pretty notably through multiple support levels into a prominent trough towards the end of April, at which time there's a notable move higher, sideways fluctuating decline around the cusp of April and May turns into like a notable move. There's like a breakout almost there somewhere around the cusp out of that decline. There's a breakout, and the Empress card also offers an opportunity, usually a bullish opportunity. So from the Empress card, we have a notable move. Yes, wow, it's really interesting. I don't see anything directly like saying that there's a move to the upside in mid May, but there has to be like there's a prominent crest or peak here at like the beginning of the 4th week or the end of the 3rd week of May. And it's a brief peak that's easily missed. We decline through multiple support levels off of that. And this is where we may have a highest high. The science card sometimes is a highest high. It represents an important price level on a multi-year scale because this is a 1-year chart. So it represents an important price level on like a chart size bigger than the reading. In this case, it would be a multi-year chart or a 10-year chart. And so in that decline off of the high towards the end of May, we decline through multiple support levels. And then there's a rally out of that decline becomes a rally, like a sideways fluctuating rally, into probably where the highest high actually is, on like the end of the 3rd week or the beginning of the 4th week of June. And there's the halting of a bullish trend there marked by a sharp decline through a key support level. Yeah, it's a key support level. Okay, I was looking to see if there was any cards that correlate to the 2 of Swords, and we do have the 3 of Swords here. So it is possible that we do see a highest high again in July, or at the end of July possibly, because it correlates to the same price level in a lot of cases, the 2 of Swords and the 3 of Swords. And we have this highest high correlation, so we decline off of this price level. There's a failed attempt to break through key resistance, followed by a decline through key support, and then a really big move to the upside out of the July trough. We push the upper end of a range higher, so that's where we get into like territory where it could possibly be a higher high, but I think it's probably the same high. It could possibly be a higher high, matter of fact. No, I think they're the same 3 highs, is my sense, because there's sideways rotation along the high, right? So a major reversal towards the end of July, and like around the cusp of July, August, there's 3 pokes through that same price level that we saw here at the end of June. 3 pokes through that same price level with a sharp dip that'll stand out on a year-to-date kind of chart after that 3rd poke. It looks like we decline, possibly like a prominent peak here mid-August, but then we continue declining into like a lowest low here in the beginning of September. Out of that, is our second really big move, like on the cusp of August and September. There's a really big move, a second really big move to the upside, reaching for a distant resistance, breaking out at least momentarily. But the high towards the end of the month so out of that lowest low that we have in early September-ish, early to mid-September, out of that lowest low, we successfully turned resistance into new support. But I think that resistance into new support actually takes place in early October. So we rally out of this low and do some sideways rotation with increasingly bullish sentiment as we move forward into October. We're doing like this sideways rotation, right? And then there's a temporary breakout to resistance on a year-to-date kind of chart, followed by a decline through that price level, and then down through key support. Looks like towards the end of the month of October. Out of the low, here's our 3rd big move. So for the year, out of the low of September, there's a notable move. First, we establish support, which will take place. The support will take place somewhere near There'll be like an important speech in the second week of September, or excuse me, of October. There'll be an important speech. We'll establish support around there on a year-to-date kind of scale, and there'll be a big prominent move to the upside that'll stand out, followed by establishing of support again. But then we decline, like that support doesn't hold. We decline through a previous support into another trough on the cusp, which isn't as low as the preceding trough. So there's like two troughs in here in October and on the cusp of November, and each one, the second one is higher than the first one. The first one is higher than the lowest low, and there's this big move out of them to reach for another prominent crest or peak towards the end of November. We create resistance, or not create resistance, but we meet distant resistance, and from there we decline with consecutively lower spikes up on the way down in the end of November. The Queen of Wands, in some cases, I've noticed to be one of those cards that has like a stretched out kind of energy. And my sense is that there's like a diagonal rally here that extends into 2024, along a rally along a diagonal trend line, breaking through horizontal resistance, meeting secondary resistance, and then pulling back to somewhere between those two price levels. And here at the end of the year, we break through resistance momentarily and then back down through the same price level shortly thereafter. There's a big move to the upside after establishing support. So big decline off of prominent crest or peak into the beginning of December, where we establish support again, and then there's a big prominent move to the upside and break through resistance in December, and then we stay above that resistance briefly, break back down through the same price level shortly thereafter. It's resistance that we've seen several times before. At the end of the year, we visit it again. We've seen it several times throughout the year. And there's also maybe like a merger or an acquisition of some kind that's highlighted in December, either that or like a decision between two leaders. But again, the rally continues into 2024. And that rally is offering a really good opportunity to open up a short position, it appears, but not quite yet. Like early 2024 should still be rallying. This is pretty significant trade opportunities here on the long-term basis. Like a lot of money can be made here, guys, if you get in at the bottom. And I'm going to get into the trade portion next for everybody that's got the paid version. We're going to go through the best trades that I see myself making throughout the year. With that said, everybody else, make sure you follow the rule of karma. It's super important, my friends, to follow the rule of karma. You make money from this reading. Send 5% of that profit forward to somebody who needs it, doesn't expect it, or maybe like a charity. Just pay it forward, my friends. 5% of the profits back to the channel. Make sure you pay it back. Say thank you. Let's do some more, because you guys are what supports us of being able to do this at this point. And then that 90%, make sure you spend it out of love. That's the only law that matters is love. Love is the law. Love under a strong will. So like you have the choice not to do loving things. You have the choice to do other things. But the law is to choose love. So make sure you spend that money out of love, my friends. The universe will send it back to you tenfold in all directions. Later.